0020. It's the 20th one, folks. We are really pleased here. We have Danny Hughes, who is an entrepreneur. He's a restaurateur. He has a very interesting background. Grew up in England, studied agronomy, became a buyer of potatoes for a large chain of grocery stores in the United Kingdom and beyond. Found that it wasn't really him, didn't really want to do that. Went into the banking firm of Halifax, did a lot of work with Halifax, got to the point where he also realized he wasn't ready to continue on. He needed a career break, took a career break with the idea of going to Spain, opening up an Indian food restaurant, and then come back. But he's still there. 17 years later, still in Spain. He did take a bit of a break from his restaurateur, took some traveling around the world for 90 days. Came back to Spain, and the new buyers wanted him to come on board and do some marketing work for him, and he went down the online path as well, as he has a lot of time freedom, and so he's an online entrepreneur. He'll be very interesting to listen to as he can compare having brick and mortar business with an online business. And so I'd like to welcome you, Danny. Thank you for consenting to be on my podcast.
It's a pleasure, Gary, and thank you so much for inviting me, and many congratulations on your success with your podcast. I've been really enjoying listening to it.
Well, thank you so much. And you know, I always start right off the bat with the questions because that's what everybody's coming on board for. So let me ask you the first one. What is the one thing you wish you had known about being a digital entrepreneur before you started?
Just the opportunities that are out there, Gary. You know, I'm actually in the infancy stage of my business, and I'm learning all about affiliate marketing, but I was unaware of all the other opportunities that are out there online at the moment. We've got e-commerce, and you know, I'm going to learn that section of digital marketing a little bit later on. You know, due to the pandemic, we've seen an explosive growth with Amazon. Because of those of you that don't know about e-commerce, it's a case of buying products from China and you can store them in Amazon. And because, like I said, we've seen this explosive growth recently. I think their stocks increased by 60%. In 2020, Amazon was valued at 920 billion. And I think their current value is 1.4 trillion. So with all that growth in the digital marketing area, there comes opportunity. So that's why I've gone down this particular route.
Very good. I agree with you that there are a lot of different opportunity avenues in the e-commerce universe. I also came in as an affiliate marketer, and I found that that just wasn't really my cup of tea. But I also found that in the real world, where I had been in mental health and I had done years of interviewing people, etc., and my ability to tell stories, apparently. I like to public speak, and I do that. I can marry all of that together. Now I'm doing a podcast, and I have never been happier doing anything in my life as I am doing this. So you can find your bliss. I know people who just become branding specialists, helping people find their brands. There's people who are email marketing specialists that tell you how to, you know, put together email packages that will be of financial benefit to you. There are online brokers now, people who just help you with your brokerage if you want to invest in things like Amazon before they got taken off. It's just an astounding world. Everything that's out there in the brick and mortar world is pretty much online, except for you can't really quite eat it. Although you can use Uber online to go collect it for you and bring it to you. So it's all online. Everything, the world is expanding. So yeah, exciting world, exciting times. So what is your biggest failure so far, and what have you learned from it?
To be honest with you, you know, when you invited me to come along on this podcast, which, like, again, I appreciate being involved in this, I did ask you, what's it involved? And you said, I'm going to be asking you this type of question. So I went away, actually, and I was like digging really deep, because to be honest with you, I don't actually use that word failure. It's not in my vocabulary. You know, I use the word, you know, we all have bad experiences that maybe not, which we don't succeed at, but I never look at it as a failure. I look at it as a lesson. And I would say my biggest lesson, Gary, to be honest with you, has been just to embrace fear and change, and just touching on how important it is, you know, with using the right words, you know, with your vocabulary. So, for example, with my children, they might come to me and they might say, Dad, I've got a problem. And I will say to them, you know, it's not a problem, it's a challenge. Because once you start changing that mindset and that internal vocabulary that you have with yourself, you can actually approach your challenges in a different way. So yeah, I wouldn't say I've actually had any failures. I've just had some great lessons, which have strengthened me.
And, that's exactly the kind of answer that I kind of expect from people who are being entrepreneurs. The world out there understands a failure. They don't understand that there's a life lesson, there's a training that I'm going through right now. They don't understand yet that Earth has a place called central casting. And central casting sends you the next lesson when, whether you're ready or not, you're going to get it. And when you know how to solve that challenge in life, you don't seem to get quite that challenge anymore. You get a variant or something else, but you get a chance to grow. And I think as digital entrepreneurs, we get these challenges, and as we go through them, we can see those little nuggets of gold that will teach us how to get the benefit. That's why it's a learning. That's why it's a learning process.
Yeah, for sure.
So what advice would you give somebody that sitting on a set of earphones right now, wanting to do something like you, saying, hey, I've been a restaurateur and lockdown has really hurt me. What can I do about getting online? What's available to me? What would you suggest? How would you tell them to begin the process?
Yeah, to be honest with you, this is the way I've always gone about my life, Gary. Like I've always said to myself, I've asked important questions when I've come through difficult situations. Like, am I happy? Ask yourself these sort of questions. Are you happy with your current situation? Is this the lifestyle that you want to be leading in 5 years' time? I've asked this question many a times, and when I've come up with the answer of no, then that's the time to change, isn't it? And the great thing about learning digital skills is that you learn at your own pace. You learn, if you have got a job like I have at the moment with the restaurant, I can learn it alongside that. And basically, my advice would be to anybody that's listening to this podcast at the moment, you're in control of your life. If you want to make changes, then you need to sort of start making those changes within yourself, but to make those changes now. Don't wait. That's what I would say. And you can reach out to me, if anybody's out there that wants some advice or any help, then please reach out. I'm here.
We'll give you the contact details for Danny in the notes for the show. So let me just say, in regards to that, I liked how you said, when you get the idea or when you get do it, move. That is so incredibly important in the digital world. So important. Too many opportunities, I think, are missed because somebody says, "Oh, I'll get to that on Monday," when they thought about it on Friday evening, and when they come around on Monday, they'll find 500 other people have got the same idea and they've moved on it. It's just things go at lightning speeds around here. So don't wait, do it. If you get the inclination, do it. It's the important thing.
Like I say, embrace that change, and don't fear it. Embrace the fear. Because outside your comfort zone is where the growth is going to be. And if you just sit in your comfort zone and you sit back and wait for things to change, it's not going to change,
I don't know who said it, but I remember hearing it once where somebody said, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly in the beginning. Yeah, so we ought to do that. So what are the best resources that you've come across in helping you to be an online digital entrepreneur?
The best resources for me, to be honest with you, I had no idea about digital marketing when I took on this journey. I mean, in July 2020, I got to that stage in my life where, okay, I had the restaurant, I was having this great life in Spain, but there was something missing. I mean, I was just searching on the internet and I came across a training company, sort of an online company that was explaining all about digital marketing. It was offering a free trial. And you know what it's like when you come across this type of information and you're flooded by it all the time, aren't you, Gary, with all this? You have a lot of skepticism. You're sort of thinking, is this really real? So I was lucky because they sent me the complimentary videos that goes with this particular module, and it was the best thing I ever did. I had a great feeling about it, and like I say, it's been a great journey. I've learned how to build my website. I've got no technical experience about building websites and putting autoresponders attached to it. The community that is involved in this particular marketing and teaching program has been absolutely phenomenal, and I would say it's definitely the best resource that I've been able to tap into to help me and progress my business and my journey.
So people could contact you on your contact details if they want to know more about how you got involved. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course,
Okay.
of course.
Yeah, super. Because I agree with you totally. There's a lot of charlatans out there, a lot of people that are hype. And I caution everybody to do their own due diligence. There are really decent training programs out there. There are really good people who want to help you along the way. And let me ask you this, that in this environment, you say with the community, it strikes me that it's really important to find a community who is willing to mentor with generosity. I mean, there's a lot of generous people who are successful who are willing to help you get there.
To be honest with you, Gary, it's a great thing about this particular program that I joined, and you're looking for like-minded people. And from my own experience in life, and even in my social circles, you've got to surround yourself by good people. And if you surround yourself with good people, you're always going to have information and ideas to be able to swap. And this community is actually, it's like a magnet, it's sort of drawn very like-minded people all together. Okay, they might be going down the e-commerce route, they might be going down the same route as I'm going down with affiliate marketing. There's so many different avenues that you can go down. I mean, eventually, once you've gone down one particular avenue, you may want to go and explore another avenue. But there's so many people with all this knowledge that are being, and they're successful people, and you can tap into them as well, which has been valuable to my journey,
Fantastic. So let me ask you, I like to use the word people, but I don't really mean people. It can be people, it can be authors, it can be influences, it can be a book, it can be a lot of different things. But what would you say were the three most influential people, places, persons, things in this journey towards being an online entrepreneur for you?
It's a great word. I know we use it a lot. It's a journey. And that's the only way you can look at it. And it's evolving all the time. And you're growing and you're finding out things about yourself that you never knew that you actually had. And when I set off on this journey, almost like you're on the computer, it can become quite isolated and quite lonely. And I'm one of these people that I find it quite difficult to talk on camera, for example, and talk about myself, because I've always learned about conversation generosity, for example, where you always have the person speak. And so part of this journey, we had this, and you've been there yourself, it's a 90-day video challenge, and it really takes you out of your comfort zone. And because I came out of my comfort zone and I went down this 90-day video challenge, what happened? It opened me up to the community, and because of that, it attracted more people. I connected with so many amazing people through this journey. The three asked me who have been the three most influential people, and when I started that process, I connected with a guy called Leo Comerton, who's he's in Grand Cayman. He's a very influential guy. Anna Riches, she's fantastic. She's in London. And Susan Lang, who's up in Scotland. And straight away we formed this bond, and we were having Zoom calls, we were swapping ideas. And even now we're connecting on a regular basis and just checking in, and you need that support. So yeah, think about the three influential people.
It's really interesting because Susan Lang is somebody I'm also associated with, as well as a confidant and as somebody who helps me hold myself accountable. So it's a small world in the digital universe, and it's amazing to me because I'll be meeting with people to like hold myself accountable or to hold them accountable. And we'll have somebody in Korea, somebody in Australia, somebody in Ukraine, somebody in Sweden, somebody in Denmark, somebody in Spain. It's like our own little United Nations, but we're all united in a purpose to get ourselves better. And I love it. It's really a lot of fun.
And everybody's got so much to give, and they all come from different backgrounds, and you're learning all the time, but just by reaching out to these type of people, like I say, they're very, very similar minded.
I will tell you, the thing that really strikes me about people in the digital universe, it seems like the more successful they become, the greater their generosity in trying to help other people.
That's a great point to bring up, Gary, because I've seen it through my own journey through this particular program that I'm going through at the moment, and the people that are actually being so successful are always reaching back to pull everyone back up, if that makes sense. And it's such a great feeling that you've got these people that have got over, like I say, that fear and that change, that are further down the road. They're all there to support you, to say, look, you can do it. This is achievable. And And that's the message they send out. It's fantastic.
There's a different mindset here because in the what I call the brick and mortar business world, it's all about market share. And if your share got bigger, somebody else's got smaller. But in the digital universe, it's very much like it's ever expanding. The pie that was available yesterday is smaller than the pie that's available today. And so even though you might have gotten a smaller slice out of today's pie, it's actually bigger than what you got yesterday out of yesterday's pie. And people in the brick and mortar world say, I don't see how that works. But it does. It is working. It is what is happening. So what's the most common myth about being a digital entrepreneur that you would like to just smash right now?
That you're too old to embark on this digital world. I'm sure you'll agree with this as well. You think to yourself, this is a young man's game, or a youngster's game, but it's all really shown up in the community that there's so many age groups and so many successful digital marketing entrepreneurs that have gone on to make such a success of this. And yeah, that was my biggest myth, that I was going to be too old to go on this adventure.
I thought the same for myself. I kept arguing over the fact that I'm just a few years off of 70, and where was I going to go? And one of the first people I connected with in the community was a guy who was 87.
Wow.
And I just said, you can do all this digital stuff? He says, no, I got grandchildren who can do that. He says, what I discovered is that you create relationships with people out here. And
it's so true.
Yeah. He says, and I'm really good at creating relationships with people. I'm a no threat. He says, I'm grandpa in everybody's eyes. As soon as they see me, it's like, oh, there's grandpa, And he says that I can talk to people. They get disarmed. They learn that everything is safe with me. And the next thing I know is my bank account got bigger. And he was just a really genuine good man. And I realized, this is not a business that you can hide behind an email address and a website. This is actually a business you've got to go out and actually meet people still, create a relationship with them, because people will buy from people they like and trust.
Exactly. Totally get that.
Yeah. So I think we've smashed a few myths right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So if you could step into my shoes and say, that really handsome, bright guy, Gary, he should have asked me this one question, because that was the question that would have been really good to hear the answer to. What would that question be, and what's the answer?
We have this saying in our community that you've really got to tap into your why. I'm sure you've heard of that, haven't you? And, breaking that down, I look at it as, what's my motivation? In the past, when I first started, I was thinking, yeah, the money sounds great, but this isn't a quick, rich scheme, this particular digital marketing journey and training, and if you are going to be going down that route and thinking that you're going to be coming on board and making, loads of money and driving around in really nice, flashy cars, then you're going to be very disappointed. It's about developing yourself and developing your skill set to obviously understand the digital marketing, and the money becomes a byproduct, because when you start to learn these skills, you're obviously going out into the digital platforms, and you start to give value to people, and you start to send the message out to people that there is another way to life, and I think this pandemic, Gary, has really highlighted that there is a lot of worry and a lot of fear about jobs and security, and it just sort of like it's made people wake up and realize that they really need to look at other options. And my why or my motivation isn't so much about the money. It's about still living in Spain and enjoying this beautiful life with my children, and showing them a good example that there is another way to make money. So yeah, that's probably the question I would have asked. What's your motivation, or what's your why in this whole process?
I'm a big, firm believer in the law of attraction.
Yeah.
And the law of attraction really tells us two things that we need to put a lot of emphasis on: is what it is you want and be really specific about it. And then your why. and your why has to be huge, has to be emotionally laden, and you have to feel really sad if you didn't work towards your why today.
Yeah,
It's
I
that
agree.
powerful.
Mm.
And where everybody, according to the law of attraction, kind of goes wrong is they don't work on those two. They just kind of focus on, how do I do that? How do I do this? But I find that when you have your what and your why both huge,
Mm.
the way materializes, you just find yourself getting clues along the way that this is what you need to do. This is what the road to take. And pretty soon you find you're getting more enthusiasm, you're getting happy, you're feeling a passion in your life. The money may not come for weeks, months, but when it starts to come, it seems to come in a flood.
Yeah, I agree. My motivation personally, obviously, like I say, we need money to live. We need money like petrol. We need to get from A to B. Money is important in our lives. Obviously, I don't underestimate that. But I personally enjoy, especially through my life experiences, going from what I've done to this point in my life now. I feel like I've got some things to teach and help people with. And to be able to do that as a job, that's why I set this business up. To be able to do that and mentor people and to help people is going to be so rewarding, and that's good. That's my motivation, and I know the money will come because of that. So
yeah. Oh, there's just so much that's available within the digital world, and so few people who truly understand it, and even fewer people have digital skills to begin with. So it's just really an amazing opportunity for folks.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
You're a really interesting guy, Danny. I'm going to put your contact details in the show notes, but just tell people how they can get a hold of you.
My website's live now, so if you want to visit my website, you can do that at www.youruniquelifestyle.com. If you want to contact me, just send me a message. I've got my contact page. I'll be more than pleased to connect with anybody that's deciding or thinking about going down this path. It'd be my pleasure, for sure.
Absolutely. If you are going down the path and you're saying, I'm going the wrong way, contact Danny. He'll help you to try to figure it out, which way to go now. Or at least get you hooked into a community of people who might be able to help you figure it out. But that's the way it works, yes. Well, it's been really great listening to you, but I give everybody at this point 2 minutes, uninterrupted, to tell the world anything they want to tell them. So, Danny, the next 2 minutes is for you to unload your heart. Your time is yours.
Bless you, Gary. Well, basically, my life motto is don't get to the end of your life and wishing I'd done this and wishing I'd done that. I personally, I'm always true to myself and I always listen to my heart. And like I say, just embrace fear and change. I always tell this story. I'll just tell you the story just to finish off quickly, Gary. But I was in Spain and I was actually here. I wasn't too sure if I was on the right path because I was a troubleshooter for the Halifax. I had a 5-year career break. I'd come over to Spain. I was thinking, oh my God, have I done the right thing? And I remember driving to work one day and this traffic, the traffic was really congested because it was a narrow road. We used to live in the mountains, so we go around these mountains very tight. And it was quite unusual to be in that situation, because normally the traffic's quite free flowing. Anyway, about 5 minutes we're going down the road and then we eventually get to my turn and there's this beautiful Harley Davidson in front of me, and it was a really expensive bike. The Harley Davidson, it was all like burgundy with lovely leather. And eventually I got past this bike and I looked at the guy that was driving, and he was a lovely little old man with his crash helmet, and he was going about 15, 20 miles an hour. And I knew at that moment I was on the right path because I didn't want to get to the stage where he was in life, where he'd probably, I don't know, but he probably lived the whole of his life working, maybe going through that routine, eventually retiring, getting to Spain, getting his bike, but he was just a little bit too old to enjoy it. So I said to myself at that moment in time, I'm definitely on the right path. So that's my message.
Well, folks, you need to find the right path and walk it. Thank you, Danny Hughes, so much for sharing with us your experience, your strength, your knowledge that you've gained along the digital journey. Ladies and gentlemen, if you find this show of benefit to you, please do subscribe. Share it with those people who are around you who you think would benefit from it. We appreciate your attending today, and we will be back at our next episode time. Thank you so much. Thank you, Danny.
You're welcome.